All right, everybody. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for this free educational webinar sponsored by Paper Not Foil. My name is Max and I work here at Simply Organic, and I'm here to help moderate the webinar today. And we are joined by the fabulous Amanda Buckingham, who is a salon owner, educator, and the creator of Paper Not Foil. So during today's session, you're going to learn the Paper Not Foil paving color placement technique. And then at the end, we'll do a little Q&A on the technique and some product knowledge. If you guys have any questions, I've enabled the chat, so you can type your questions into the chat. And when we get to a point where we can address them, we totally will. And we'll do, again, a Q&A at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our Amanda, and she's going to take you through the technique.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here and not only showcase Paper Not Foil as the founder, but to give you a pretty cool color technique to take away and adapt. You know, I think what's most important today is to kind of take what we're doing and turn it into how you would like to use it. So I'd love to introduce my paving technique to you. It is something that has possibly been seen or been around for a while. I think maybe it's been called a herringbone technique in the past, but I've adapted it with Paper Not Foil, and it is a wonderful way to place paper into the hair. We're basically using a V technique, so V weaving, so our sections are always on an angle, and if you think about angles in the head, you know, we're always angling to try and get the best placement throughout our color work. What I love about this is it's always seamless. So no matter where you part your hair or how the client moves their hair around, it seamlessly gives you a blended result. And it's possibly one of my favorite ways to foil, actually. My inspiration for this would have to come from nature and architecture. So, you know, I've been fortunate to travel and see some beautiful sites throughout the world. But when I look at pavements and I look at buildings and stonework, especially, not only have we got different ways of fitting those bricks in, but it also creates dimension. So depending on light, depending on if you're using dark or light against dark. So one thing I wanted to explain is this technique can be used for either low lighting or highlighting to add dimension to the hair. It's beautiful in both scenarios where you're wanting to either lighten or add some depth to the hair. But also a really great thing about it is I use it a lot to create dimension when I'm wanting to pop blondes but leave potentially a bit of hair, you know, to give us that diversity of color. So it's really versatile. Like I said, you can use it for low lighting or highlighting. You can also use it in conjunction with balayage or to the root. So whether you're doing to the root foils or you're doing off-base placement or a combination of both. So again, it is really versatile and really fun to do. A couple of section techniques I'll go through, and also the sizing of paper that we use when we're doing this technique, and that really depends on the length of the hair. You'll see that the sectioning technique is really simple, which is great. It's not overcomplicated. It really is working on V's and angles. But when you're working with different lengths of hair, it's really important to prep your Paper Not Foil, which is, again, very simple. We come in two sizes. We've got our skinnier width and our wide width. I absolutely love the wide width for this technique, which we'll go through very shortly. But more importantly, like I was saying is, and for some of you that have been on here previously on our last session, is how much paper do you actually need in the hair? And if I revert to our model today, this is our pre-done. This is just me going through with conditioner actually to place the foils in the hair so you can see the different lengths and sizes and ways that I have applied the paper to the hair. So when we talk about using the correct size, our model through the front has got a fringe. So for me, it really made no sense to use a big long piece of paper because it's just going to get in our client's way. We don't need to be colouring that much here, which is why I have cut one piece of paper down into smaller sizes. Through the mid-length here, you'll see that I've got half sizes. So that is literally our paper knot foil cut in half. And all of these pieces of paper are easy to prep. You can have an area out the back of your salon or in a trolley like I've got, where you've got half sizes, little squares, and another size that we're going to be using today is our angle cut, which is this one here, which makes perfect sense when we're trying to place very closely to that hairline and get that beautiful angle for that seamless foil. And to cut that particular angle, I'm just going to take you through that right now. All you need to do is grab quite a few pieces all in one. You don't have to just do one at a time. You can do 10 or 15 pieces in one particular cut, fold it in half, and cut your corner off. And this gives you the perfect angle, whether you're doing your right side, which is probably your left on the camera, or if you turn it over, you can do the other side. But these are a wonderful tool when we're doing our paving placement today, or a wonderful size. So again, I just wanted to make sure that when you are using paper knot foil to create, make sure you're only using what you need, because number one, you'll use way too much paper and you get way more out of a pack if you do cut it to the perfect size that you need. Now, sectioning. With our model today, I started at the back. Now, through the underneath here, we've got our angled sizes. I know this is going to be hard for you to see, but I'm going to recreate this on a new dolly anyway. So these are our angled cut, and they sit really beautifully and nicely into that nape area. Through our middle section, I've just got normal standard sizes that I've cut to a shorter length because my model's hair isn't really, really long. Through the sides, we've got our angle cut again, which helps us to really get close and a nice fit around that hairline. And then to the front, I've done, I guess, a variation of folding my paper in half, but also as I get to the front where I want it to be very seamless and very close to the root, I've sandwiched so that they sit really nice and tight and flat on the head without movement. For those of you that have used paper knot foil, you'll notice that we don't need to fold over a comb or fold into parcels. So by actually sandwiching rather than folding them in half, you get a really clean fit, and it's really snug. It helps to stay tight into the hair. You'll also probably remember me last time using little duckbill clips or little dinky clips, that if I was worried in certain areas of my head, I can easily grab a clip and grab a whole lot of those pieces of paper together and anchor it. And this is going to give me that security that that's not going to drop or move as I'm working through the rest of the head. It's not necessary, but I think when you're learning paper knot foil or starting out, it's really lovely to have these tools that we can, I guess, have a little bit of peace of mind as we get to know paper knot foil. So our paving technique, based on V sections, we've V'd a few of our foils through the underneath section, through our nape, to get nice and tight to that hairline. Then we've worked through our just underneath our crown, and this is a mixture actually of to the root and balayage that will also go through. Then once I get to my crown, I've started on my sides, and you'll see there's a reason for that when we start to place our colour in. And then through the top, we've got our classic V sections working all the way to the front. The purpose of V sections is to cross over. So every time we do a section, we're slightly crossing over our part line, which creates a zigzag effect. And that, I guess that's the whole philosophy around a seamless result. You can also angle your paving sections to a part line. If your client has a middle part, your sections are going to cross over that middle part. If they've got a side part, you may want to start on that side part and do a few more on this side to meet up. But this will make much more sense when we go through it. I think you'll find she probably looks like a little piece of art or a little piece of origami, which is often what I refer to paper not foil as. Remembering it's a fantastic colour tool. I think we get tied up with the word foils. I love to think of paper not foil as a colour tool rather than a foil as such, because it can be just utilised in so many ways. Another purpose for this technique is its speed. It's really fast. I guess that one of the benefits of paper not foil is when you're not having to fold over a comb and fold into parcels, it actually makes your colour application a lot quicker. But you'll see that as we go through it. Now, all I've done to prep with my sectioning is I've done a classic star hearting or a hot cross bun. I know we call it all different names. So it's basically through the middle, right down into the nape, and from the crown down below the ear. So 4 sections. And my first placement is going to start at the nape, where I've done an angled section. So this is working on a V, like we were talking about. Everything we're doing today works on an angle around the head. So we're following the curvature of the head the whole time. And I'm going to be using my angled sections of paper, which are these ones here, because even if I just place that for a second, you can see, just going to turn this around, how that fits very nice and snug to my hairline. If you had little hairlines, like someone that didn't have a lot of hair in that nape area, you can easily cut a whole lot of these directly in half so they become skinnier. You don't ever worry about, like, if this is too wide for that area, origami, cut it in half, make it the size that you need it. These can all be pre-done before you start your color. But I'm going to use my smaller width today with my angle cut off. Everybody foils different. So this is all about placement for you today so that you can see how to place paper into the hair to create this beautiful paving technique. So we've got one angle on one side and one angle on the other. My guideline is the middle. We're going to take these out soon and just work side to side, but visually you can see, you know, we want to make sure we know where our middle parting is. If you're worried when you let this down, pop a clip up the top, exactly where that middle parting would be. So you've always got a visual of where you're working. But I know most of us now are pretty familiar with middle partings. Then all I'm going to do is take my section, whether you weave or slice. Another little trick with paper not foil is to elevate the hair very high before you place it on there. Finger and thumb is really important as well. This gives you ultimate control when you're putting paper into the hair. Place that down and lever your hair down. You can possibly all see I'm quite close to that hairline and I've got a perfect angle working around the nape of my head. And then I'm going to apply my color. And this is going to go more towards our retouch area. But if you were doing balayage, this is also a great size paper to, or an angled cut to be using for balayage as well. Once you've done that, there's two things you can do. You can easily fold this up and place it together, which I will do for you. And the next one that I do in the next section, I'll actually just leave it nice and flat. And that really depends on how much hair we've got. If I'm doing a lot of these back to back, I will generally sandwich, which I'll show you in a second. But if you're just doing a couple of pieces underneath, folding in half is absolutely fine. Again, if you're worried about any movement, you can pop your little dinky clip in to keep it nice and secure. This will help you to keep moving down. As you've got more paper coming on top of that, you can just add that clip to the rest of those foils. So on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to take a slice, and again, don't judge my foiling technique. It's really for display on my model today. Finger and thumb, and we're working on the hairline. So you can see now on both sides how that V angle sits beautifully. Paper knot foil is really grippy as well. So as soon as you actually touch it with colour, it wants to stick. And that's the reason we don't go over a comb and we don't have to fold into parcels to keep it in the hair. It's a beautiful grippy paper that sticks. So that one's going to go up in half. And like I said, beautiful if you're just doing a couple of pieces underneath. But if you were doing back to back, then sometimes, most of the time actually, I love to sandwich. Remembering that if our client had quite shorter or a lot shorter hair, potentially this length, I would be cutting my half piece of paper into a smaller corner because I don't need all of that paper dragging down. I only need what I'm colouring, especially if I was just to do a little retouch. But this is a great way of sandwiching when you're doing long hair. So we'll do a wee weave. What I'm going to do as well, guys, is afterwards, I'm going to continue to finish our model off and dry her and present her to you separately so you can see the result. But again, finger and thumb, leave it down. We've got a beautiful angle around our nape area working towards our ear. No different if you were using traditional foil. If you want to, you can wiggle up with your hand. You can feather in. You've got really good control with it. But to avoid me now folding that up and creating a bit of bulk with that bend, we can easily just pop another one on top. Sits beautifully and flat. What else I love about it is if I wanted to come back and check those foils or do any other work through here, potentially if I was doing a retouch and then refreshing my ends after, I can quite easily pull that open and get in there without having to unfold foil as I go. So just to make this even, I'm going to do another one on this side. So angle our V section down. I'm almost sitting behind the ear. Take your little slice or little weave. Finger and thumb, elevate high and lever down. And just as we did on the other side, we're going to place one on top to keep it nice and protected and keeping it nice and straight. It's not going to get in your way. Remembering if you wanted to, you can roll these up to get them out of your way. And of course, using a little dinky pin. This is great around the front if you wanted to remove that length from your client so that they can drink their cup of tea or read their magazine. So you can easily pop, 5 of these in a roll and just have them sitting like that. But we'll just drop that down. The other thing too is, as you start working your way up, your sections of your hair get wider. That's when you can jump into the wider size. So if I actually pop this against there, you'll see how much hair you can actually cover in one section, which is fantastic. You know, no more having to go up the middle, up the sides. You're doing that all in big, nice, long sections. The world is your oyster. You could do lots of micro lights up here. You could stop through here and start to do some balayage work to give you some depth in that crown area and feather out. The way I love to do it is I would essentially probably do maybe 5 on each side. And then as I work towards the crown with our paving section, tangle it up, I love to introduce a little bit of balayage. So again, I'm going to find my center part through here, and it doesn't have to be exact. We are working on a, I guess like a zigzag effect anyway. So now what's going to happen is I want to just slightly cross over my part line. So here's my part line, if we can imagine here. My section that I take is just going to, actually, I'll do that again for you so you can see it a bit better. There's my middle part. And I'm just going to make sure I'm grabbing some hair on this side of the part. So take your section, and this is balayage, this section, just to create some dimension. Flick that hair away, and I know there's my middle part. So I'm just going to take a little bit of hair from that side. You'll see how wide my section is. It's reaching from almost above the ear right down past the middle of my middle part. And this is where the wide section comes in to play. So this is going to be my balayage now, my balayage placement. Finger and thumb, lever down. And I'm going to start my application where I want to see the heaviest color, which is when we're doing this type of technique, always through our bottom section. What I'm going to show you is a really beautiful way to blend. So we're going to flick up as we would. And I'm not being ultra fussy here. I know where I'm painting, but I'm not working overly hard at making this merge together seamlessly. We're always trying to get the best non-demarcation and the best from, I guess, dark to light, or the merge of color happening seamlessly. With paper not foil, a really cool thing that you can do is once you've skiffed up, grab your piece of paper, place it on top, run your comb down, one hand at the top, one hand at the bottom, and pull. You'll see what happens in a second when I release this. What I'm doing is I'm only pulling until I see a little bit of that wet color come through, not enough to disturb the color, the hair underneath, but so I can just see that wet mark happening there. When I pull this down, what you're going to see, if I can bring this a bit closer, actually I'll move her over, is I've completely smudged the color that we were trying to blend without having to feather or keep brushing. It's just a really quick way, which I'll do on this side, of applying, creating a seamless balayage effect. So again, our center part is pretty much smack bang in the middle of these two pieces of paper. And I'm going to create another slice, which is going to overlap my center line. Don't get too hung up, guys, on if you don't quite go across the center line. As long as you're meeting the center line, it's fine. But the perfect kind of scenario would be to just grab a little bit of hair on the opposite side of that part line. So we'll clip the rest of that away. And we'll add in another balayage technique. So again, I'm still using my nice wide angle keeping with our V work that we're paving, finger and thumb, lever down, apply the heaviest part that you want to uptake, and then skip up. And again, remember, I'm not doing this, I'm not spending a lot of time feathering that, because I know that when I put my paper on top, and pull that down, hand at the top, hand at the bottom. I'm doing this slowly, like when you guys get experts at it, which you will be, it actually happens really fast. So I can see this tiny piece of wet coming through. And if I open that up for you again, you can see I've really merged that color off. I've basically taken all the clumps off and spread it out to where I want my saturation really easily. So you can see by using that really wide, nice piece of paper that we're covering a lot of area pretty quickly. So again, guys, it's up to you. You can continue to balayage up to the crown. You can come in and do some more at the root foils. So we'll just do this again. And I'm slightly just remembering to grab some of my hair that's just on the other side of that part line. And what you'll start to find is everything will start to look like brickwork, that you're slightly overlapping each section. And just to show you with this one, I'm just going to fold up, because this will make it a bit clearer as I keep working across that center part line, how they start to merge together. So a little bit of hair from the other side of the part line. Elevate really high. It's pretty speedy, eh? Like, I know I'm demonstrating, but if I was in a client situation in the salon, you know, I can really just pave away pretty quickly.
Amanda, you're getting a lot of love on this technique.
Yay!
And we have a couple paper not foil users in the audience who are also raving about the product.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah, you know, it's a bit different, right? It's a little bit different to get used to because of our habit of always having to fold over and fold up. But look, this is why I love doing what I do, is to help you understand it a little bit better and create some pretty cool ways of using that that's fast, accurate, and sustainable. So you can see now there's a lot of hair in these pieces of paper, right? But we're, you know, it's fast. We're creating a lot of foils. Well, sorry, we're covering a lot of hair with minimal foil, I should say, which is also going to save your pocket too when you're you know, buying paper. Now, again, you can continue all the way up. It really is up to you. Leave some dimension, leave a whole chunk out if you want to, and maybe just balayage or flash through those ends. What I want to show you now is I'm going to start from just under the crown, and I'm going to start my paving pattern that will start working right to the front. So I'm pretty much complete through the back. Like I said, afterwards, I'm going to pop back in and just do a little bit more for you so that it's when we have our final presentation that gets sent to you, you can see exactly what we've done. But our paving pattern, to give you that beautiful seamless result, really accentuates up here. And this is the kind of technique that is so quick when you're wanting to just create those face framing sections along here, or potentially you just want to do the top of the hair. You don't want to do any work through the bottom. So how I would do that, I'm going to stand up now. So I'm just going to adjust my dolly for you. I'm sure you won't mind if you don't see me. So we can drop all of our sections now. We don't have to worry about our front. It's going to start merging into this top section. So I'm going to take a curvature line just beneath my crown. And again, this is a personal preference. You can go as far below the crown as you want to, or you might want to start on the crown, or if you're only face framing, you may just start at the front. The technique's exactly the same. It really just depends on your, I guess, your final result, how much color you want to see. Again, we're pretending, well, not pretending, we're finding our middle part, right? And we're going to take a little bit of hair from the other side of that part line, working towards the side or above our ear. So this is our first section as we start to work through the front. Just turn that around so you can see. And again, what we're going to find is we're actually now, you can still use your angled foil if you want, but I'm just going to come in with classic straight, long, wide. And what you'll find is when we put this foil in, we're going to be coming almost to the front, like almost right through into those temples, which is also quick. So the more we move to the front, the more we're covering all the way to here. Oops, sorry. We're just going to completely start to cover all of this front section, which means that we only have a very small amount of hair on the sides to have to foil, if that's what you wish to do. You know, you may want to leave that for dimension, but I will show you how to do that as well. So again, we're pretending we've got our middle part there, and we're just going to take our first section and again, whether you want to slice or weave, this time we're using our nice wide piece of paper or full length. But again, if my client's hair was only half of that length, we only need half of this, cut them in half. Or if it was short hair, because this works beautifully on short hair as well, we might cut this piece of paper into 3, which means we're getting a lot out of one pack. So finger and thumb, elevate down. You can see how close I am to that hairline. And I really am levering down to give you that tension as well. Apply our color. So lovely because it gives you almost like a canvas or a board to paint on. I'm going to fold this in half just because I can. But if you were essentially doing quite a few, like maybe you wanted to do 50 of these all the way through, I would sandwich just to keep them nice and flat. Again, if you are concerned because you're working in that crown area, put your clip in. That's going to give you, there's no movement going to happen as you start to work through that top section. And it is that security blanket. But again, on the other side, we're going to do exactly the same. Drop our clip down and pick up our hair section. So we are working just on the other side of that part line. You'll see them cross over in just a second. Wide piece, elevate up, lever down. And I'm sure you can probably imagine, just with watching me do this, the opportunities you have. Our next section could be a balayage section, and then go back into doing a root section, you know, alternate, always depending on the result that you want and how much color you want in the hair. Drop that down, pretend where our part is, just go on the other side of it. Make sure I just lift that up. You'll start to see them really zigzag now. So again, just grabbing a little bit of hair from the other side of that section. Nice wide slices, as in wide widths, to cover a lot of the head in one hit. And when I finish this and dry her off, I'll come in really close so you can see how that color is actually sitting at the root area. So I won't do too many more in this crown. It's really just to give you the idea of how to place. So you can actually see now, as I keep working, I'm coming more towards the front. I'm hitting the sides of our model's head, which is great. Elevate, leave it down. It feels so lovely to paint on too. So you can probably see how things are just starting to cross over themselves. And you would essentially just keep doing this right to the front. I'm going to miss quite a bit of that top section now, and I'm going to head towards the front of my client to show you what happens as you get closer to the front of the head. So if I was face framing, I would potentially start here. So I'm heading towards the front now. So what's going to happen is when we put these in, this is going to hit all the way to there, and then this side to the side. And we're just going to keep working in that motion until we've got no hair left at the front. So I don't have to worry about trying to cover all of this area of the front because my angles are going to cover it for me. And if you want to, you don't have to, but you can still continue to use the angle cut pieces, which look lovely. They sit really well.
Amanda, we have a question from our audience, and it says, the color will process the same will the color process the same even when it's not folded flat?
Yes. So paper not foil is a thermal paper. So it will always retain heat. You can put it under the climbers on or any heat source that your manufacturer recommends. Also, too, always remember that color needs oxygen to process. So I think we get into this mindset that, oh gosh, will it not process the same with that little bend in it? It will. I haven't had, honestly, any feedback really to say that that's different. But just so you know, you can actually squeeze that down and push it tight if you were worried about that. And of course, if you push them all tight, if I just come in here for a second and squish these ones down, you'll see. So they've essentially been closed up. And of course, with the hair and everything sitting on them, it will keep that heat in. So now I'm just going to work. Remembering always to think about where the part line is so that you cross over. And we're going to keep heading to that part line and just over it. This is really going to give you that visual now of seeing the paving technique cross. I love this technique also when I'm doing off-base placement, meaning I want to have a bit of a regrowth. I don't want the colour right to the roots, but almost off-base placement. So you can see how they're crossing over each other. And that's all you do, is you just keep continuing to head towards the front. What you will find, and I'll go right to the front now. When you get to here, your sections get smaller, as in your widths get smaller. So if I just section that and show you, this section is now probably half the size of the one behind it. And that's where you can work into using a smaller size. So instead of using my nice big wide size for this section, I can use my smaller ones so that they don't get in the way, or they're not too wide as I do this. And again, like I discussed at the start, if you need to, cut that size in half again so it's skinnier. It's basically to help you avoid having to try and get the foil or the paper out of the client's way or out of your way.
Amanda, do you have any advice or best practices as far as washing and drying the sheets?
Yeah, for sure. So if you were just doing a few placements, like say your client just wanted that little bit of refresh around the hairline, you might only be using 10 pieces of paper. Give them a rinse at the basin when you're shampooing. Pat them dry in a towel and leave them to keep drying just by themselves sitting somewhere. I think we overthink how much we have to wash and dry them. Because if you're only using a few, it just makes sense to give them a rinse while you're shampooing and then leave them somewhere to pat dry later. If you're doing a full head of papers like this, the best way to do that is to have a bucket of water beside your basin, maybe with a lid on it, that you can just leave there to soak the papers in during the day while you maybe don't have time to rinse them or wash them. When they're ready to be washed, or you've got a whole bucket full, then you can pop them into the washing machine with a couple of towels. That helps to swish them around and get the excess color off them. Remembering that if you've soaked them already, that color will have started to remove itself from the paper. Then when they're done, there's so many different ways. You can just pull them out of the washing machine, run your hand through them, because when they're wet, it's a lot easier to straighten them out again. And literally have like a piece of string out the back that you just flop them over in piles, like piles of 10, that they can just dry during the day. Sometimes our salon just leaves them in a washing basket and we just run our hands through and they just dry, naturally in the basket. Some people do put them in the dryer with a couple of dry towels to help soak up that extra moisture. And the timing for that would only be like 10 minutes. Remembering that if they're not 100% dry, they'll continue to dry in their piles. The biggest thing is to make sure that they're unraveled before you soak them, unraveled before you put them in the washing machine. And when they come out, squish them together so that they go nice and flat. Never worry, if your paper comes out of your washing machine or dryer, like that, just like your clothes, it does not take much to flatten it out again, especially when it's damp. you will always have wrinkles in it. You know, that's never going to go away. But this, as I put this in here, will not affect your color work. In fact, every time you wash and dry them, they get thinner because they're naturally breaking down. So they're degrading as you wash them. They actually get some people find them a lot nicer to use as far as they're a little bit more flexible. But let me show you when I put this one in that.
Amanda, another question about the bucket of water.
Yes.
How long is too long to keep them in the bucket?
You could go days. Honestly, nothing will happen to them apart from you may not get the 3 to 4 uses out of them that we kind of suggest. They might start to degrade a bit more, but it won't make any difference to how long they stay in there. Now, if you just have a look at that one for a second, yes, it looks a bit crinkly, but it did not affect my placement. So now you can see we are really just working our way through to that front. And once you run out of here, you're done. And you have a beautiful side-to-side paving placement all the way through the whole head that contours the head that we've been colouring. Now, the sides, this is such a personal preference. But what's really cool about it, if I flick these away for a second, you'll see, just going to move all of these. We don't have a lot of hair on the sides to colour because our foils have come all the way to the front. So sometimes, like I did in our original model, I actually only have to do, and you can do this now, or you can do this once you get to the crown, you can stop, do a couple of foils on the side, and then continue your front. It really is a personal preference. I generally like to do it the way I just said. I would get to my crown, and then I would put a couple through the sides. Then I would continue right to the front of my head. And of course, you can use your angled pieces of paper. If you were creating dimension, you might only, or a root stretch type situation, you might only want to do a balayage type foil through here. So, you know, you don't have a lot of hair left through those side sections, which means it's quicker. Side sections are always the most difficult, I think, when we're foiling to kind of fit in. So having less of it to have to colour is perfect. So this is just a little wee off base where I can pull that down till I see that colour coming through. And if I need to, I can do more. Flip them back over, which is why generally I love to do them before I get to my crown. I'll start on my sides. So I get to my crown area and then I stop. I don't do any of the top, do a couple of placements into my side sections, and then continue with the front.
Amanda, we have another question asking about what the papers are made of besides paper.
Wow, do you know an interesting fact? Paper knot foil is actually made of construction waste. So it's made of recycled stone from the industrial industry. So brick, mainly tiles, crushed into a very, very fine powder and reformulated with a degradable food resin to bind it together, which is completely non-toxic. So it's actually 81% calcium carbonate, which is stone, and the remainder being the resin. So basically, when it starts to degrade, it degrades like you would see eggshells. So it starts to crumble away, turns to dust without any residue of toxin to our environment whatsoever. Which one of the reasons why I wanted to create something that was degradable like that and caused absolutely no toxins whatsoever is if it went into the landfill, which is what a lot of our products do, I knew it was going to be completely safe and remove itself altogether. No microparticles, no toxic gases released as it breaks down. But also remembering it's recyclable and also able to be made into other products. So it's got a pretty good, I guess, end of life story.
That's awesome.
So guys, you can see I'm just continuing. I'll do one more for you to work through that top section side to side. And sometimes you'll see what I'm doing. Sometimes I might do 2 on one side and then 2 on the other side. Whatever way round you decide to do it, as long as you're paving and zigzagging to give you that beautiful seamless result. So, I know that throughout that whole application, take these out. I have zigzagged all the way through. Everything's working like this. So when my client, once it's all finished, when he or she does their hair and they flick it around, it's just, you can't tell. It's not like slices. It's not like trying to come up into straight lines. Having these and angles working together just creates this beautiful blend. And, that was quite a chunky placement. When I say that, as in chunky slices, and it's purely for demonstration. In a salon situation, or with very fine hair, or for someone that I wanted to be invisible with where those foils are sitting, I would do lovely tiny, tiny slices or tiny weaves. But that really is the end of the story of our paving technique. Start at the nape, work in with your V's, go as high with it as you want. Start to incorporate some balayage technique with it. Get to your crown area, come back into your roots, or alternate with balayage and roots, and then angle your way through the front. Add some sides in if you wish to, and you'll have a beautiful, very fast technique that's, I think, is really quite elegant. And like I said, I'll do this for you and get it videoed out, but also I'll do a really nice, simple breakdown of that technique in a diagram of how it should look on the head. And that's it, guys.
We have another question in the audience that is asking, is this only for color, or can you use lightener also?
Absolutely both. So if we look at our model at the moment, I actually used a high lift on her today because I wanted it to be, the hair we're dealing with possibly isn't the best. However, powder lightener, of course, come in and do global toning. Change the mindset now. Imagine that she was a 10-level blonde who wanted to have a little bit more dimension in her hair seamlessly. You could come in with a beautiful 8-level sandy tone to add to that, some coolness on a 7-8 level, and it would really, by using the paving technique, it would really, merge into those blondes really nicely without looking stripy.
Awesome. Any other questions, friends in the audience? All right. Looks like we're good. So Amanda, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today. And also everybody in the audience, we appreciate you guys taking the time out to participate in this webinar. We have created a promotion around paper not foil for this week only. You can save up to 30%. I'm going to put a link in the chat for you guys. 1 second here. So there's a link for the small size and a link for the large size. So you can click on those to take advantage of that. And also your account managers are going to be reaching out to you shortly to answer any further questions you might have and place any orders if you'd like to take advantage of the promotion. But you can always place orders with your online account. So if there's no other questions, I guess this is it.
Thank you so much, guys. I really look forward to more of our little tips and tricks and techniques. And like I said, you know, I just want you to be able to feel confident with it. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to close it down. Feel confident with it and turn it into your own, you know, even if you only take one little snippet from that. But keep in touch, share on our social what you guys are doing with it. And yeah, thank you, Simply Organic and Maxwell as well.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Amanda. You guys have a
Okay.
great Monday, and we'll be in touch soon.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.